Welcome to the Woodsman shop, where we do antique restoration and custom woodworking. This week's build, a billiard rack. It's made of red oak with a red oak veneered backing. It has a shelf for the cone chalk, 4 shelves for the pool balls, a bottom shelf for the cue sticks, and a peg on the bottom for the ball rack. Where the cue balls are inset, I put some green felt, pool table felt in there. And on the finish, it's a dark mahogany with 2 coats of shellac, a couple coats of orange oil feed and wax. The overall dimensions are 59 inches tall, 37 inches wide. In this video, you'll see a step-by-step or somewhat step-by-step process of how I went about building this. Because like I said, I had no plans and I was developing the plans as I went and was just going as I went, as I foresaw how I should build this thing. You may do it differently, or you may have seen it done differently, but since I had no plans, I was trying to get this thing as best I could. On these pieces here and these shelves, I made templates up for those. I will show you those templates, and if you like this video, please subscribe and follow along.
Well, it's a new week and a new project, and this week's project is going to be a wall-mounted billiard rack made out of oak. I've already laid out and cut to size my back, which is made of veneer plywood. I've cut it down to the proper size it needs to be, and laid out my lines for my rails to the billiard balls to set on, and then I've laid out my other lines for my decorative trim. I've got my pieces here. I'm going to be cutting these into rails, and I've got my fluted trim that's going to go on here, and my crown molding for the top of the rack. But first we're going to set the stiles on here, the columns. We're going to get them measured to length and cut and put in place. And then we will be working on the rails for the billiard balls. We're going to be cutting them down. I have a template here. This is about a 22 degree, I think. I forget what it is. That we're going to lay out and trace on these boards. We're going to cut them out on the miter saw and get this well underway. Okay, so first what I want to do is I want to cut these columns down to 55.5 inches. That's based on my top box where the pool cues are going to fit up into. I measured down 3.5 inches for the box at the top, and I come up with 55.5 inches. So we'll mark these and get these cut. Okay, so I got my columns set to size, and I measured down 4.5 inches on each end, and to accept my brackets, that's where my brackets are going to go, and that's where my fluted piece is going to fit in between there. So I got all those marked, and I'll get ready to set the fluted column. Alright, I got the one side nailed into place, glued and nailed. Now I'll do the other side. My squiggly lines, and then I go up each side. So I want to make sure I get real good adhesion here. If there's a little squeeze out, I'll just wipe that off with a damp cloth, and we should be good to go. Place a little bit. Just set down in there, make sure it's at my line. Make sure it's flush. And we nail it. Just a couple nails, just enough to hold it down. Do one end, now do the other. place till she glues. I'll clean up the glue marks or the squeeze out and get ready to put my fluted pieces on. Alright, I got my piece centered on here. There's about 1/8 of an inch reveal on either side. I think that'll give it a nice little shadow line. So I'm gonna nail these on. I'll probably have to set these nails a little bit. A little protruding out a little bit here, so can't find my other hammer. Let's use this one. I'll just fill those holes in. Shoot this, give us a little more depth. Make sure I got my 1/8. An inch. Just an inch. I got my line. These will hold brackets, and they're on order. They haven't come in yet. They're going to come in a couple days. So once we get those in, we'll set those on there. But in the meantime, I'm going to get these rails for all my billiard balls and chalk cubes. And this is probably going to be the cone chalk stand. It's going to be a little different, but I'm going to get these 4 done. And so I'm going to cut all 5 out, but I'm only going to be able to work on these 4, and then I can route the edges. Okay, I got this first piece that I'd already laid out with my template and cut. Now I'm laying out the rest. I laid out 2 other ones. I got 2 more to do to lay out, so I'm going to measure, keep it flush there. Mark my lines, and then I got this one here to lay out. Got them laid out. Now I'll get them over and cut them on the miter saw. Okay, I got my lines laid out on here. I think what I'll do is I'll cut all my straight cuts first, and then I will cut my angle cuts. Alright, I got all those cut, and I'm going to do my angles. Just lining it up as best I can. Making sure I got perfect angle here. Now I just reverse the side, get my other angle. Alright, I got 5 of these cut out. These here, these are all going to get routed out with a trim router. Some sort of profile on them. Not sure which one we can use yet. But on the 5th one, I got to attach a piece here, glue a piece here, and then for my cone, my chalk cone. Okay, now remember how I said my top rail had to be wider to fit the cone, except the cone of chalk. So I measured out my distance, equal distance. I'm gonna glue this up, let it sit in clamps. Probably best to let it sit all day, maybe even overnight before I route this one out. I'll go ahead and glue this up. Get this glue on here real good. Get it on my lines. Make sure it's jacked. Wipe my finger off here. I'll get glue on the rest of it. Go ahead and clamp this. Just a little bit of pressure, not much. A little bit of pressure, not much. And then I'm going to make sure my, well, that's kind of wobbling. So I do want to make sure that these ends stay down. I'm going to go ahead and clamp these ends. So we'll set that aside for a few hours, probably till tomorrow evening. Alright, well, I went ahead and routed each of these profiles on here. I forgot to record it, but I did a profile like that. I don't know if you can see it. Hopefully you can. I used this here. This thing just slipped out of here. I used this profile bit. Let's see if I can get it. Showing here for you. I used this profile bit. I don't know if that's showing up real well. But like I said, I forgot to get it on camera. So I went ahead and did it anyways. And that's all ready to go. Alright, my next step is I want to drill holes in my back of my board here. Drill them from the front to the back because I'm going to attach those rails with screws and glue. So in order to find them from the back, I want to drill it from the front and then countersink the back to put them through. I'm going to use my awl as my punch marks. Now, like I have never built a billiard rack before, so this is all go as I can. So you might have a better step in the next step. You might have a better process, and that's all good and fine. But like I said, I've never built one before, so I'm just going with the flow and doing what I can to make sure I can get it done. Because like I said, I got to get it out of here by the end of the week. Gonna go mark them about center. I don't have to be dead on, but I want to get it as close as I can. I'm gonna do four of them per rail. Try to get these all punched in so I can drop my bit in there and drill it from this side. Like I said, it doesn't have to be dead center. I'm not trying to be real accurate, but Do want to make sure I get enough bite for the screws so I can get these attached well. The glue's going to be doing most of the strength work though. Screws are just holding it in place. Alright, time to drill the screws. Drill the holes for the screws. Alright. All my holes are drilled. Flip it over and countersink the other side as best I can. Grab a different drill here. I know there's breakout on here, but that don't matter. Just the back side. It's gonna be up against the wall. I just want to countersink enough to get some of that splinters out of there. Before I get one in my fingers. Not the right tool, but it's close at hand. That's the job. Sometimes you gotta improvise. Alright, they're all countersunk. Got to do something. Pretty sure it'll fit these screw heads, but yeah, that'll work. That'll work. Flip it back over and figure out how I'm going to attach these shelves. I got to stand it up somehow, so alright. One thing I want to make sure is I want to get these tight against this backing, so I'm going to use a chisel and make sure these are flush, because sometimes they divot up like these here. I don't want any gap. This is the tool I should have been using on the other side. I don't want to stop. Just a simple little chisel. Get it all cleaned up. Make sure it's flush and even. Don't feel any dimples. Alright, I'm ready to attach these with glue. Before I attach them though, I took some sandpaper, a sanding block right here, and just went over the edges there and softened them up a little bit. Get a little bit of tear out. So I did that. Now I'm just going to attach them with glue, and then I'm going to weigh them down until they tack up really good. I'm going to weigh them down with these extra pieces and let them set for a half hour maybe to tack up. Then I'm going to flip it over, pre-drill my pilot holes to go into the rails so I don't split them out, and then I'll attach them with screws. Make sure I get enough glue on there to hold them in place all over the edges. Set them back down to my line. And I'll weigh them down. I have a brush, but I like using my finger. Get it on there a little more even. Besides, it's fun to put the glue off later. Remember your school days. Elmer's glue. Just put it on my hands and peel it off in class. I have to tell my time. I'll clean up the glue here. Maybe with a chisel. Let it dry up a little bit. Get it cleaned up. For now, I just want to make sure I get all this on here. Get them so they start setting up. And I can screw them into place. They're all facing the same profile direction. Finger off here a little bit. Start putting these on. Give it a little weight. Now the weight's distributed evenly. I'll let that sit for, like I said, probably 30 minutes, maybe less. And then tack up a little bit, and I'll pre-drill the pilot holes and attach them with screws. Alright, so now we're at the point of the project where I'm going to be cutting my bottom rail that the cues rest on, and cutting the pieces for the box at the top where the cues go up into. And then after that, I'll be working on the crown molding for the top. So I'm going to cut these down to 37 inches and get them glued up and nailed together, and put the bottom rail on the bottom, and we'll go from there. So before I put the bottom rail on and the top box, I had to, I don't know if you can see this, I had to mark out the lines that are going to accept the pull cues. So I just laid them out. I know I had to go 6.5 inches on each end that the pull cues sit in, and then I went 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches, and an inch, or 31.5, 33.5, 35.5 on each end. So then I'll take a Forstner bit and I'll drill completely through the top for the top box, and only halfway through on the bottom. And we should have or not even quite halfway, maybe 1/4 of an inch. We should have enough to put the pull cues in. Alright, so I got my boards cut down to size. I'm going to drill my small holes for the top that accept the pull cues first. It's, what size is it? 7/8. 7/8 Forstner bit. So I did one hole just to test it out. Looks pretty good. So I'm going to do the other 5, and then I'm going to switch bits and get the big ones done. I put the board underneath to reduce the tear out on these, because I don't want these to tear out. Even though it's going to be up inside the box and you're not going to see it, I still don't want to tear out. So. That's those. A little bit tear out, not much. I'll sand that down, but looks pretty good. I'll switch out the bits and I'll do bottom board. Always be careful putting these on, because if you grab here when you're spinning that around, it's going to cut you. Don't ask me how I know. And then I just lock it back. On most of these drill guns, once you get it tight in there, if you, like this Ryobi, I can lock it back. It locks it into place. Most screw guns do that. I'm not saying all of them do. Most of them do. And believe it or not, I'm not sponsored by Ryobi or anything, but I have Porter cable ones. And this one is far better than quarter cables. The battery life lasts longer. It's got a little more power to it. So that's just my take. Now I'm sure everybody has their own opinions, but here we go through the bottom board. I'm only going to go down just a little bit. I think that should be good enough. I'll do the next one. It's always important too when you're doing these, keep them straight. Now this one got a little off center. The bottom needs to be flat, so you got to keep it straight up and down as best you can. They'll look about even. That's what they look like. So then I'll have some felt padding. Probably put that in there. Might want to go a little lower though. I'll probably go a little bit deeper, but there'll be some felt padding in there, and that's where the pool cue can rest on. Okay, well, good morning. I got started early today. I made my templates for my two pieces here. This is going to be the chalk rest. I already routed this out. Put a little decorative edge on it. That's going to go right in here. And now I'm working on, going to be routing out the edge on this one, which is the bottom piece of the rack. And that's going to have a peg in the center, and that's going to hold the pool ball rack. So I'm all set up, got my router bit in there, got the depth set, and let's get started. Bit of a jump there. I'll sand this down, soften these edges up a little bit, and get ready to mark the hole and drill the hole for the peg. Alright, to get my mark for my oak dowel, I measured this as 33 inches long, so I divide that in half, and then I use these two ends as reference point. They're 3 inches wide. So I just came up from the top. This will be the top. This will rest up against the rack. Came down from the top 3 inches and put my center mark. So that's where my dowel is going to go, right in that little center mark. Alright, now before I drill the holes for the chalk rest and the pool ball rack, I have to make the pegs. I'm going to use the 8 inch for the chalk rest, and I have another 6 inch for the ball rack. So before I drill those holes, I'm going to turn these down to the proper size. So we'll head on over to the lathe. Alright, that's one down. I'll cut this off right about here. I'll round over this end, so that should be pretty good, and I'll sand it up a little bit here quick, and we should be good to go. Use a little 150 grit just to smooth it out a little bit. That's good enough. We'll get this one out of here and get the other one chucked up. Now, I did make my center marks. Whenever you're using a lathe and you're doing something stock like this, you want to make sure you get a center mark because you want to get that dead even. Otherwise, you're going to get a little wobble in there, and you don't want the wobble. Tighten that down. Got a little more tight. I want to make sure I get it set in on those teeth so it grabs a little bit. Looks good. number 2. Check this one. That's about right. It's not the same diameter. I only want to go like 3/4 of an inch to an inch in diameter, so let me, yeah, I gotta go down a little bit more. I gotta get these out of here. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, let's do that a little more. Alright, that's better. We'll do some sanding. And this die is ready to go. Alright. Got that done. So next we'll cut these to length, round these over, make a nice little round over on them, and attach them to our billiard rack. Alright, so we put some glue in there on both these pieces. This one fit tight, so I just had to set it with a hammer. This one didn't, so I had to put a little bit of a brad nail in there to hold it down tight. And we'll let these dry and get ready to attach them to the billiard rack. Alright, so I got the pegs in, got them both set. Next step I did was I glued the pool ball rack trim and peg into the bottom rail that the pool cues sit on. So I have that tacking up right now. As soon as it's tacked up enough, I'm going to shoot some brad nails in from the other side. Then on this one, I'll set this one in place. Same way, I'll glue it. I'll let it tack up a little bit. I'll flip it over and I'll put some screws in the back of it to secure it tightly. All right. Got a little ahead of myself. Forgot to film this, but this is a simple little box. So this is where the pool cues are going to go into. Top pool cues. So it'll sit facing this way, and all I did was just glue it up, shoot some brad nails in it, and then I'll put it on the rack and get it all nailed in. Alright, I positioned the box where it needs to be and realized that I didn't have anything behind here, so I've got to cut this piece down the length, and then I'll be able to attach this box to the top. Then I got to get some strips for on the side. Have a little bit of a reveal over here too. So I'll cut these down, I'll put them on the box, and I'll get ready to attach it. Okay, I got my box built. I did not get to record the video of me doing the crown molding. Did all my crown molding. The date got moved to get this thing out, so I had to hustle. Got everything all put together. Got to putty it up. Finish sanding underneath that part there. Get some of that done and get it stained. And I got to get it out of here. I apologize I didn't get to do the video of me doing the crown molding and all the detailing on here. But I lost track of what I was doing because I have to get this out. But stay tuned for the staining. I'll show that on the next video. Okay, did it again. Got so busy I forgot to turn the camera on, but here's the stain. I just got these brackets in. I'm waiting on the other two. I'm going to stain them tomorrow. And I'm going to throw the clear coat on it. And this thing's out of here Friday. But once I get them brackets on, I'm going to put felt, green felt in these cue holes and for the cue balls. And once that's done, I'll get it out of here. It's been a long week, folks. Long week. Had to push to get this thing done. But when I get it all together, I'll shoot out another video. Okay, so I got the coat of stain on. I'm still waiting for my delivery on my blocks, on my brackets. When I get them in, I'll stain them. I'll attach them to stain them, and then I'll apply my finish coat. But for now, I'm just doing some touch up, getting some of these spots that didn't fill in very well, hitting them quick, and trying to get this ready so I can get the sealer on it. So I'm just going to keep working at it and hit the spots I need to hit. There's just a few light areas that seem to have been missed. When I applied the stain originally, it's the grain of the wood. Just some areas that just need touched up. So I'm going to hit them as best as I can. And I don't want it to be perfect because he's looking for, he wants an antique look, so I'm going to try and get it to that look. Probably end up rubbing some of the spots off a little bit so they're not standing out so much. There are some areas like in here it's tight, so that's why I got to do some touch up. With the smaller brush, I just couldn't get the other brush in there. This side looks pretty good. Couple spots here. Feathering it in. This time I'm going to go around and wipe off when it's a little drier. Let that soak in for a minute. Okay, got everything touched up except for those brackets at the top. I got to get them done when they get here. But everything else is touched up. You can see the recesses that hold the pool balls and the cue sticks. That they're all touched up. Everything's good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and put the clear coat on it, even without those brackets, because I can do those separately. But I'm gonna, as soon as this dries up a little bit, or dries up good, where I touched up and finished off, I'm gonna put the clear coat on it. I'm gonna go with a shellac. It's more of a matte finish, because I don't want it to be real shiny. I want it to look older, and then so we'll get that on there as soon as this is dry. Alright, I'm still waiting on my two brackets to be delivered. Hopefully they get here soon. I'd like to get this thing done, get it out of here tomorrow morning. Currently I'm just working on adhering these felt rings inside the recesses, and other than that, this thing's done. So I'm going to show you how I do. I just put enough cement, contact cement, on the inside, put a good amount on there, and then I put enough on felt, just a little bit, not too much. That helps it adhere a little better. I'll place them in their spot. Make sure that's laying flat. Give it some time to dry, and then they're in place. So I got all these to do yet, so I won't bore you with the details on the filming. I'll check back with you when I'm done with you. Alright, finally got the brackets in. I'm going to be putting the shellac on these here. They've been stained, they're dry. Going to get the shellac on, let the shellac dry, and then I'm going to feed and wax it with the Howard feed and wax. Hopefully you can hear my voice better because we just got a microphone. Alright, it's all finished. Everything's been waxed, polished, and ready to go out the door. I'm pleased.